Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Baba Talks episode 20. I'm going to be honest with everyone. This is actually an episode that I've been dreading because in episode 19, I told you we were going to talk about the young boy whose father had issues, and I'm uncomfortable. I'm just going to be honest with all of you. I'm uncomfortable because these things keep happening. So rather than drag this on, let me just give you the story of what happened in one of my classrooms. So everyone knows, all of you know, if you've been with me a while, that I do residencies and I do them globally. And I work in classrooms with children from K to 12. And I differentiate according to whatever their developmental needs are. So, okay, that all aside, I was working with a group of fourth graders, 9, 10 years old. And I had been with them for maybe, I think it was about the fifth week I was with them. And early in the relationship, I'm always building trust. I'm building confidence because I want them to believe in themselves. And the way that I can get them to move more toward believing in themselves and their own potential is by me demonstrating that I believe in them. So this builds a very special bond and relationship during these residencies. And I also allow the children opportunities to ask me questions. And the questions don't always have to be related to the lessons that we're giving. So after about 5 weeks or so, one of the children raises his hands and he has this look on his face like he's struggling, like he doesn't want to ask this question. He doesn't want to say what he wants to say, but I'm encouraging him, have courage, get over your fear. This is a part of life, facing things and overcoming them. Even the feeling of that, people are watching you or looking at you and you're going to ask these questions. So he raises his hand in a real sheepish manner. He says, Baba, he says, my dad hates black people. And he's always saying mean things about black people. And you could see the hurt in this child. You could feel, not just see it, you could feel the pain of what this child was experiencing. And I allowed him to continue talking until he ran out of whatever he needed to say. And he explained that his dad used, now this is my language, not the child's, pejorative terms for African-American people. You can read into that, and yes, you would be right if you're guessing what I'm thinking. And as he's saying all of these things, I'm focusing on this child and his pain. And what I failed to recognize was how what he was saying would affect the rest of the class. So I'm trying to listen with all of my heart to this child as he's telling me about the things that his father says. And he's starting to say, I don't know why my father says these things. I don't feel this way. And the children around him are getting angry. The children are up in arms and they start yelling at him about his father. So I had to referee this. I had to, no, wait, calm down, stop. I know everyone, I know what you're feeling right now. So I had to calm the classroom down. So we have this boy's pain. We have the classroom feeling as though there's a wrong that needs to be righted. I've had this before. No, I've had this many times over my career. There's something about those of us who go into classrooms with our hearts open and full where we gain the trust of children and they tell us things in confidence. And this was one of those moments. If you were with me on the Louisiana tour, you remember back then, that was right before the pandemic. On the Louisiana tour, there was a young black boy who stood up and he had the same sort of pain on his face, but his question was, why do white people hate us so much? Now, before I tell you how I dealt with the situation with the young boy in the residency who told me about his father, let me just explain something to you. And this is where some of my disappointment has come in the way many adults have chosen to deal with these issues of bigotry, race, sexism. When it when I was dealing with this issue, what I recognized was there are two different levels to this. There's one where we center the child, and then there's another one where we just address the issue in a broader manner. But what I found with adults, and this is where my disappointment has come in, for example, when I talked about the young boy in Louisiana who asked me, why do white people hate us so much? On my social media, in my inbox, on my emails, when I put that out, the majority of the responses that I got were statements such as, I hope you told him all white people don't hate black people. I hope you set this child straight. I hope you explained to him that we're human beings. And that's what I got. I got a lot of deflection and defensiveness. And the reason why that bothers me is because none of those statements center the child's emotional needs, psychological and emotional needs. None of them. It's difficult for me to stand before anyone and hear things like this because I'm a human being and I have a reaction to them. I come from a family that has a long, long history. I'm a descendant of those who at one time were enslaved in this country. So this touches me deeply. But if I'm capable of centering the needs of children when it comes to issues that we're dealing with, then I'm just going to say this. Anyone should be capable, equally capable. The last thing we as adults need to do is to deflect or to try to find comfort in our own minds, with our levels of fragility against issues like this. It'll be easier if I just tell you how I centered the child, because maybe that's what some people need. So when the boy told me this, and after I got the class calmed down, I looked at him and I asked him, I asked, this hurts you, doesn't it? And tears are just streaming down his face and he's nodding his head. And I said, it would hurt anyone. And I said, you love your father, don't you? And more tears. And now he's getting that sound. And all the children are quiet because I'm telling them how important it is to focus on this child's needs, their peers' needs. And I went further. I went a little deeper with them. And I said, you don't have to talk right now if you don't want to, but I would really like to give you an opportunity to express how you feel and what you need from us as a class. And here is where we get into that differentiation between sort of like the communal mindset or community mindset and the mindset of the individualistic mindset, right? We've got these two things competing in this society. The individualistic is the dominant, and that's where we get our heroes and heroines from. And it's dysfunctional. I'm just going to put it out there. It's dysfunctional. Most of the world is communal. 80-something% of the world have communal mindsets. So in the classroom, I try to create this communal mindset. That's why I say we. That's why I use the term we and us a lot. So I wanted him to give a chance to address all of us in the class, to tell us what he needed from us. So I was going to allow him that time. I was going to let him go get water, wash his face, take time, whatever he needed to do, walk around the playground. I'm not stringent when it comes to time like that. I will put my lesson plans on the back burner at a heartbeat when it comes to moments like this. So I was willing to give him that time, but he didn't want to take it. He expressed that he wasn't like his father. He talked about how sometimes it didn't just hurt him, it made him mad. These were his words, it made him mad. And other children were chiming in about how angry they were too. There was, you have a few tough kids in the back, little 9, 10-year-olds. Don't let me meet your dad. But after he finished expressing what he was feeling, when the tears subsided, when he was no longer heaving, that's when I take my opportunity to sort of try to assist in directing him where I think he might need to go with this. But before he finished speaking, he looks me in my eyes and he says, "Will you come talk to my dad?" Think about that for a minute. I'm not going to say anything right now. I want you to just take a moment to think about that. You are speaking to a classroom of 9 and 10-year-olds. You are in this situation where a child looks at you and in pain asks you, "Will you come speak to my dad?" What do you do next? Seriously, what do you do next? Now, typically when I end up in these types of situations and I ask friends or other people, like, what do? All I get is deer in headlights looks. That's typically what I get. When I ask the hard questions, what I typically get are people who don't want to deal with these hard questions. And these are the hard questions. So I've already told you I centered the child. But I also know I don't know his father. And I know he shared these things in confidence. So I'm just going to tell you what I did. Right, wrong, indifferent. I'm on the spot. I've got to act. So what did I do? I told him that I want him to talk to his father, but he didn't have to talk to him right now. I told him that I'm going to give him the tools to speak to his father, and that someday he would be able to take these tools out and use them, and his eyes brightened up. Just the fact that I was using this language, that I'm going to give him the tools to talk to his father. And I explained the reason why I wasn't going to go talk to his father, that I was going to give him the tools so that he could go talk to his father, was because, and this was an important aspect of this, his father loves him. That's what I explained to him. I told him, your father loves you. And I told him, you may not even know how much your father loves you. I said, but what you have to say to your father will be so much more impactful, so much more powerful than if I speak to him. And he seemed to take that in. He's straightened up and he's listening. He's got the focused listener face on. So then I began to tell him, because his father loves him as much as he does, and because he loves his father as much as he does, that he will be able to make some difference. It may not be the difference that he wants in the moment, because don't we all have issues, moms, dads, right? But what I told him was, you have to let your father know how you feel. You have to let your father know when you're hurt. You have to let your father know when you're disappointed. And I gave him the language to use to do that. And I had him say some things back to me like, treat me like I'm your father. What would you say? And initially he starts with this angry voice. And I said, no. No, we're not going to do that. And I told him, I said, remember, you two love one another. So this is a conversation that you need to have. And we practiced, we role played a little more. And this is when I start including all of the other children. Like, if this were your mom, if this were your dad, what would you do? How would you handle this? And you would be shocked at the level of wisdom that a lot of children can engage in when it comes to these social, emotional things that we have to deal with. I did the same thing in Louisiana when the young boy asked me, why do white people hate black people so much? I'm going back to that disappointment about the way people wanted me to tell the boy all white people don't, and all of those things. Centering the child takes you to the core issue of seeing another's humanity. And that's really what has to happen. We have to see our children's humanity. And right now we're having all of these issues with discipline, with disruption, and no wonder we are. No wonder we are, because we haven't given children what it is they need. And what do children need? Children need consistency. They need to have confidence that the adults around them know what they're doing and are guiding them in the right way. They need to have discipline. And discipline is not the way this society has structured discipline. It is not punishment. Discipline is a part of consistency. Consistency manifests those things that we want or we need or we desire. It takes discipline to be consistent. And there's a whole lot of other things around discipline that I could talk about, but I won't because I want to keep this a little shorter. And I know this is going on longer than I typically go on, but this was an issue that I really needed to get out, and you all always help me. You're my therapy. I'm just going to say it. You all are my therapy. So I can't wait to see the emails that I'm going to get from this because the support that I get from you helps me continue to walk into these classrooms and do what I do. So I'm going to just say this before I close out. We have to be able, as adults, not only to model what we are wanting from our children, but to set the expectations for ourselves so high that we make them want to achieve what it is that we're doing. And I'm not talking about success in terms of finance or money or stuff. What I'm talking about is being that holistic being who they can trust, who they come to. And if we model that, then they become those same types of people. I don't know any other way to put it. I mean, I know it sounds overly simplistic, but this modeling that has to be done is important. And don't address issues in a really superficial manner. What children say is not always what they're feeling. What they're projecting out. On the surface, it may seem like aggression. It may seem like pain. There are so many other things going on. We take what we have within the parameters of our control and we deal with that in the classroom. So I'm hoping that maybe some of you will give me some input on how you would have dealt with it. I know it's much easier for you because you are not standing in front of the kids in the moment. So let's do your, what is it called, backseat driving? Let's do the backseat driving thing because I know I'm going to get a ton of emails about how I could have handled it different. Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? I do what I do, people. And I've had over 27 years of success. So I'm confident in what I do. And I have children who are now adults, and I'm seeing their children come through. So being the grandpa that I am, or the old man that I am, I have a track record. But I'm not perfect. So I am open to constructive criticism. Provide me with that. So this was episode 20, Baba Talks. I'm going to sign out. Next episode, it's going to be about a few things I think you'll find very interesting. I've had some more moments on campuses of disrespect from children who weren't a part of my class. We'll talk about it. And then what I want to do is show you how I address that disrespect from, these are like older children. So Baba Talks 21 will be talking about how to deal with children's disrespect toward adults. All right. So until our paths cross again, as I am fond of always saying, doni doni, kunoni benyagada, or little by little, the small bird builds its nest. See you next time.